Have you ever had the strange feeling that someone made a decision about you, without you knowing? Not long ago, the person who loves you found themselves standing in front of a choice that could change everything between the two of you. They almost walked away, but something happened that stopped them. Since that moment, they've been quietly preparing something they never thought they'd have the courage to do. It's not what most people would expect. And it's definitely not what you're expecting. The surprising part isn't just what they're planning. It's the reason they waited until now, and the one small detail that changed their heart completely. By the end of this message, you'll understand why this surprise could mean far more than anyone realizes. My beloved child. The one who loves you is standing closer to a decision than you could possibly imagine. No trumpet has announced it. No crowd has witnessed it. Yet something has been quietly changing beneath the surface, hidden from ordinary eyes, growing stronger with every passing day. You have sensed that something feels different, haven't you? Not because you have seen proof, but because your heart has been catching whispers your mind could not explain. There are moments when silence speaks louder than words. This is one of those moments. While you have wondered why certain conversations ended too quickly, why certain memories returned without invitation, and why familiar emotions suddenly felt new again, another story has been unfolding where you could not see it. Every unanswered question has become a thread in a much larger tapestry. What appears random today may one day become the very reason you smile through grateful tears. But that understanding has not arrived just yet. Someone has been carrying thoughts they never expected to carry. They have replayed moments that once seemed ordinary, only to discover that those moments were never ordinary at all. A simple glance. A forgotten sentence. A quiet goodbye. They have begun to see those memories from an entirely different place. Sometimes the greatest awakening begins with something so small that almost everyone overlooks it. Isn't it remarkable how the heart can recognize value long after the moment has passed? You have spent more time questioning yourself than celebrating the strength that carried you this far. You wondered whether your kindness mattered. Whether your patience had gone unnoticed. Whether your quiet sacrifices disappeared into the wind without leaving even the smallest trace. Yet love has an unusual way of remembering what people forget. What was given sincerely never truly disappears. It waits, sometimes far longer than expected, until the right moment reveals its purpose. That is why today's message is not about chasing what keeps running away. It is about recognizing that unseen movements often begin before visible change arrives. The seed beneath the soil never looks impressive. To those standing above it, nothing appears to be happening. Yet beneath the darkness, life is already pushing upward. Perhaps that is where you are today. Not buried. Planted. There is a difference. Many confuse waiting with being forgotten. They mistake quiet seasons for empty seasons. But there are chapters where growth refuses to make noise. Those chapters often prepare the most meaningful surprises because they shape hearts before they shape circumstances. What if the delay that frustrated you has also been protecting you? What if every unanswered prayer has quietly redirected something you never needed, so that something healthier could eventually find its way to you? Questions like these rarely receive immediate answers. Instead, life leaves gentle clues. Recently, have you noticed how certain names appear in unexpected places? How songs seem to awaken emotions you thought had faded? How familiar places suddenly carry a different feeling than before? These moments are easy to dismiss. Yet sometimes they invite reflection rather than explanation. Not every reminder exists to pull you backward. Some reminders prepare you to move forward. Meanwhile, the one who loves you has been confronting something they could no longer ignore. They discovered that real affection is measured less by perfect words and more by quiet choices. That realization did not happen overnight. It arrived through moments of honesty, moments when excuses lost their power, and truth finally became impossible to silence. Growth often begins where pride finally grows tired. And when that happens, even ordinary actions begin to carry extraordinary meaning. You may never know how many conversations happened inside another person's heart before a single word was ever spoken aloud. You rarely see the invisible battles people fight before they choose courage over comfort. Sometimes the loudest victory is completely silent. That is why patience is not weakness. It is confidence that refuses to panic before the story reaches its next page. Still, there remains one piece of this unfolding story that has not yet been revealed. It is the part no one around you could predict. Not because it is impossible, but because it depends on something changing within a heart rather than around it. And when that change finally becomes visible, you may look back at this very moment and realize that the surprise did not begin with an event. It began with a transformation that no one else could see. Yet even that is only the beginning. Because what is about to unfold next is not simply about someone's feelings. It is about the unexpected choice they are preparing to make, a choice that could redefine everything you thought this story was becoming. The choice forming within that heart did not appear in a single instant. It was shaped by quiet evenings, unexpected memories, and moments when everything else grew strangely silent. There comes a time when distractions lose their power, and a person is left alone with the truth they have been avoiding. That is where this story has arrived. Sometimes the hardest conversation is the one that happens without another person in the room. The one who loves you has begun asking questions that once felt impossible to face. What truly matters? What deserves another chance? What remains after pride, fear, and uncertainty have fallen away? Those questions do not come easily. They ask something in return. They ask for honesty, and honesty has a way of changing people from the inside out. Perhaps you have been changing as well. Not in ways the world immediately notices, but in the quiet places where character is formed. You have learned that peace cannot be borrowed from someone else's approval. You have discovered that hope survives even when certainty disappears. Those lessons were not wasted. They became the steady ground beneath your feet, preparing you for moments that require both courage and grace. There is something beautiful about becoming stronger without becoming harder. Many people confuse strength with distance. They believe protecting the heart means building walls so high that nothing meaningful can enter again. But real strength is different. It knows when to guard the heart, and when to leave the door open for kindness. It understands that wisdom and compassion can exist together. That quiet balance has been growing within you. And without realizing it, your calm has become part of the surprise itself. Because people notice peace. Not always immediately. Not always aloud. But they notice it. The one who loves you has begun seeing a version of you that perhaps they overlooked before. Not because you suddenly became more valuable, but because their own perspective has changed. Sometimes the greatest transformation is not in the person being seen, it is in the eyes that finally learn how to see. What once appeared ordinary now carries remarkable meaning. A simple memory becomes unforgettable. An old conversation suddenly sounds different. Even silence begins revealing things that words never could. That is why today's chapter is not about dramatic moments. It is about quiet awakenings. The kind that reshape tomorrow without announcing themselves today. Like the first light before sunrise, they often arrive while most people still believe the night has not ended. Have you ever noticed how dawn never argues with darkness? It simply appears. Little by little. Until everything changes. In much the same way, hope often returns without asking permission. It slips gently into tired hearts, reminding them that another chapter is still waiting to be written. Not because every problem has vanished, but because perspective has begun to shift. Perspective changes everything. A closed door becomes protection. A delay becomes preparation. A disappointment becomes direction. And a season that once felt empty begins revealing gifts that could not have been discovered any other way. The one who loves you is beginning to understand this truth. They are realizing that meaningful connections are not measured by perfect timing alone. They are nurtured through sincerity, patience, and the willingness to grow beyond yesterday's mistakes. That realization has stirred something unexpected within them, something they can no longer easily ignore. Still, they hesitate. Not because the feeling is weak. Because it is real. Real emotions often move carefully. They weigh every step. They consider every consequence. They understand that some moments deserve thought before action. And perhaps that carefulness is exactly what gives the next decision its weight. You may be wondering why everything seems so close, yet still unfinished. Because every meaningful story reaches a point where one final piece has to fall into place. That piece cannot be forced. It cannot be rushed. It arrives only when the heart is ready to carry what comes next. And somewhere, beyond what you can currently see, that final piece is beginning to move. Not loudly. Not dramatically. But steadily. Like a key slowly turning inside a long-locked door. Soon, someone will have to decide whether to remain silent, or finally allow their actions to speak louder than every word left unsaid. That decision has been approaching far longer than anyone realizes. And when it finally arrives, the surprise will not simply be what is done. It will be the courage that made it possible in the first place. But there is one hidden detail still waiting in the shadows. A detail connected to a promise, one that neither of you fully understood when it was first made. Only now is its true meaning beginning to emerge. Promises are rarely remembered because of the words that were spoken. They are remembered because of the hearts that refuse to forget them. The promise now rising to the surface was never written on paper. It was carried through ordinary days, hidden beneath conversations that seemed to mean very little at the time. Yet life has a remarkable way of preserving what truly matters. Long after voices fade and moments pass, genuine intentions continue echoing in places no one else can hear. That is why some memories return when you least expect them. Not to trap you in yesterday, but to reveal something about today. The one who loves you recently found themselves standing in a familiar moment, a place, a sound, or perhaps a quiet evening that awakened a memory they believed had disappeared forever. For a brief instant, time seemed to slow. The details came rushing back with surprising clarity, carrying emotions that had patiently waited beneath the surface. It was not regret that spoke first. It was gratitude. Gratitude for what was shared. Gratitude for what was learned. And gratitude for the realization that some people leave an imprint on the heart that cannot be measured by distance or time. Perhaps you have experienced something similar. A memory appears without warning, not demanding your attention, but gently inviting it. Instead of bringing sadness, it brings understanding. You begin to see that every chapter, even the difficult ones, has quietly shaped the person you are becoming. Growth often disguises itself as loss before revealing itself as wisdom. That realization changes everything. Because once wisdom enters the heart, fear begins to lose its voice. The one who loves you has started noticing small reminders everywhere. A familiar melody. An unexpected conversation. A simple kindness from a stranger. None of these moments seem extraordinary on their own, yet together they form a pattern too meaningful to ignore. Patterns are rarely accidents. They are invitations to pay closer attention. Meanwhile, Your own journey has been preparing you in ways you may not yet recognize. The disappointments that once felt heavy have quietly taught you resilience. The unanswered questions have strengthened your patience. Even the moments when you felt unseen have deepened your compassion for others. Nothing has been wasted. Not one tear. Not one lesson. Not one quiet night spent wondering whether tomorrow would feel different. Every experience has become part of the foundation beneath your feet. And strong foundations are built long before beautiful houses appear. There is another truth unfolding now. One that neither you nor the one who loves you expected. Both of you have been changing at the same time. Perhaps in different places. Perhaps through different experiences. Yet the growth has been moving in the same direction, as though two separate paths were quietly preparing to meet at the right moment. Not by force. Not by coincidence. But through choices that gradually shaped each heart into something stronger than before. That is the remarkable thing about genuine transformation. It rarely announces itself. It simply becomes impossible to hide. Sooner or later, people begin noticing the difference. They hear it in your voice. They see it in your patience. They recognize it in the calm way you carry yourself through uncertainty. And sometimes, that quiet strength inspires courage in someone who has been afraid to take their next step. Could that be what is happening now? Could your own growth be giving another heart the confidence it has been searching for? The answer is still unfolding. But one thing has become increasingly clear. The surprise waiting ahead is not built on impulse. It is being shaped by reflection. By maturity. By the understanding that meaningful choices deserve thoughtful hearts. Even now, there are moments when the one who loves you almost reaches the turning point, and then pauses once more. Not because they are moving away, but because they want their next step to carry sincerity rather than haste. Sometimes waiting one more day creates the courage that rushing never could. There is quiet beauty in that. Because what lasts is often built slowly. Still, the story has not reached its most surprising moment. There remains one conversation that has not yet taken place. One realization that has not yet been spoken aloud. One unexpected act that could transform everything both hearts have been silently carrying. When that moment arrives, it will seem almost ordinary to anyone watching from the outside. But you will know. Because ordinary moments often become extraordinary, the instant truth is finally given a voice. And just beyond this chapter, someone is standing at the edge of that very decision, holding a few simple words that have the power to change the direction of the story forever. Words carry a remarkable weight when they have been waiting for the right moment. Not because they become louder, but because they become truer. The one who loves you has reached a place where silence no longer feels comfortable. For a long time, unspoken thoughts seemed safer than vulnerable conversations. It was easier to imagine possibilities than to risk revealing what had been growing inside the heart. But every season of hesitation eventually meets a moment of decision. That moment is drawing near. Have you ever noticed how the smallest act of courage often begins with a quiet breath? No applause. No audience. Just one choice to be honest. Sometimes that single choice changes far more than anyone expects. The heart was never designed to carry every feeling in secret forever. At some point, truth begins gently knocking from within, asking to be welcomed into the light. It does not demand attention. It simply waits, patiently. Until pretending becomes more difficult than speaking. That is where this story now stands. Not at an ending. At a doorway. The one who loves you has been revisiting moments that once seemed insignificant. They remember the kindness you offered when nothing was expected in return. They remember the calm in your voice during uncertain times. They remember how you made ordinary days feel meaningful without ever trying to impress anyone. Those memories have become impossible to ignore. It is remarkable how appreciation often grows long after the moment has passed. What was once taken for granted now shines with unexpected clarity. And as those memories gather together, they form something stronger than nostalgia. They become conviction. Meanwhile, your own heart has continued learning a different lesson. You have discovered that love cannot be measured by constant reassurance. Real peace comes from knowing your value even when life feels uncertain. You no longer chase every answer. You have learned to trust that clarity arrives when the time is right. That quiet confidence has changed you more than you realize. People are drawn to those who carry peace without needing to prove it. They may not understand why. But they feel it. The one who loves you has begun feeling that difference too. They see someone who has grown through challenges instead of being defined by them. Someone whose compassion survived disappointment. Someone whose hope remained alive, even during seasons that offered very little certainty. That realization has awakened something unexpected. Respect. And where genuine respect grows, courage often follows. Still, courage asks for one final step. It asks a person to move beyond imagination and into action. That is not always easy. Action leaves footprints. It cannot hide behind endless what-ifs. It reveals what truly matters. There is a quiet moment approaching, one that may seem ordinary if viewed from a distance. A familiar place. A simple exchange. Perhaps only a few words spoken without dramatic music or grand gestures. Yet beneath that ordinary moment, entire worlds can change. Because hearts rarely need spectacular events to recognize what is real. They only need sincerity. And sincerity has a way of reaching places that perfect speeches never can. Perhaps that is why your own journey has required patience instead of urgency. Patience teaches the heart to recognize authenticity. It clears away illusions. It softens expectations. It creates space for gratitude to replace fear. Without realizing it, you have been preparing to receive something that cannot be forced. Only welcomed. But before that welcome arrives, there is one last barrier standing quietly between two hearts. It is not distance. It is not misunderstanding. It is something much smaller. Yet far more powerful. The fear of taking the first step. Strangely enough, that fear is already beginning to lose its grip. Little by little. Moment by moment. The weight of silence is becoming heavier than the risk of honesty. And when that balance finally shifts completely, the surprise will no longer remain hidden inside someone's thoughts. It will begin revealing itself through choices. Through presence. Through quiet acts that say far more than dramatic promises ever could. Yet one question still remains unanswered. What finally gave the one who loves you the courage to move beyond fear? The answer isn't what anyone would expect. It began with something so simple, so easily overlooked, that almost everyone would have missed its significance. And that quiet turning point is about to be revealed. The turning point did not arrive through a grand event. It arrived through stillness. There are moments when life becomes unexpectedly quiet, and in that quiet, the heart finally hears what constant noise had been covering. No distractions. No excuses. Just the gentle voice of truth asking a simple question. What are you waiting for? That question lingered longer than expected. The one who loves you tried to move past it, to fill the silence with familiar routines, but every ordinary day seemed to lead back to the same realization. Some opportunities are not meant to be admired from a distance. They are meant to be approached with honesty, even if the outcome remains unknown. It is amazing how one sincere question can change the direction of an entire story. Perhaps you have felt moments like that yourself. A quiet pause in the middle of an ordinary day. A feeling that there is more ahead than what you can currently see. A gentle reminder that life is still unfolding, even when nothing appears to be changing. Those moments are easy to overlook. Yet they often become the beginning of our greatest growth. The one who loves you has started seeing the future differently. Instead of wondering what might go wrong, they have begun asking what might become possible if fear no longer made every decision. That single shift has opened a door. Hope entered first. Then courage quietly followed. Courage is rarely loud. It does not always announce itself with dramatic words. Sometimes courage looks like sending a message after a long silence. Sometimes it looks like showing up when it would be easier to stay away. Sometimes it simply means allowing another person to see what has always been hidden behind careful smiles. Those quiet moments often become the ones remembered for years. Meanwhile, something equally important has been happening within you. Without realizing it, you have been releasing expectations that once felt impossible to let go of. You have stopped trying to control every chapter. You have begun trusting that meaningful things unfold one page at a time. That kind of peace changes the atmosphere around a person. It creates room for joy to enter without forcing it. It allows gratitude to bloom before every answer has arrived. And when gratitude takes root, the heart becomes ready for beautiful surprises. Not because life suddenly becomes perfect, but because it becomes deeply meaningful. The one who loves you senses that change. They recognize that you are no longer standing in the same place emotionally. The version of you they once knew has grown wiser, calmer, and more secure. Your kindness has not disappeared, but it has gained quiet strength. That strength has become an invitation. Not spoken aloud. Simply lived. It reminds others that healing is possible. That hope can return. That tomorrow does not have to repeat yesterday. Sometimes the greatest message is not delivered through words. It is revealed through the way someone chooses to live. Now another chapter begins opening. The one who loves you has reached the edge of action. The endless rehearsals inside the mind are coming to an end. The imagined conversations are slowly giving way to real ones. The distance between intention and action is becoming smaller with every passing moment. Still, one final hesitation remains. Not because they doubt what they feel, but because they hope their next step will be received with understanding rather than judgment. That hope has made them more thoughtful, more patient, more genuine. And perhaps that is exactly why this surprise will carry such unexpected depth. Because it is no longer driven by emotion alone. It is guided by wisdom that could only have been gained through time. Yet there is one piece of the story that has remained hidden until now. A quiet detail that explains why this moment feels different from every moment before it. It is not about perfect timing. It is about perfect readiness. Two hearts can cross paths many times. But there is a unique moment when both have grown enough to truly recognize the gift standing before them. That moment may be closer than either of them realizes. And just beyond this chapter, a single unexpected encounter will begin revealing whether all these quiet transformations were leading to something neither heart could have imagined.